The truth is, I am Iron Man. Okay, so I've just seen Iron Man 1 for like the umpteenth time. Absolutely loved it. One of the things I loved about Iron Man was, there's two things I loved about him. One, he's a rebel. He's someone who plays by his own rules. Secondly, it was his creativity. He uses his mind and his intelligence to create this weapon. Similar, I kind of felt the same way that I feel about Batman. Like Batman's always been my favorite character. I like the fact that he's just a man. He's not some super powered being. He's just a man with a lot of intelligence. He's taken time to learn his craft. He's someone who traveled the world, learned various different martial arts. He learned all the martial arts in the world. He became an intelligent detective. You know, he's completely efficient with technology, uses his wealth to build cutting edge technology, and ultimately became a superhero who could take on beings who are seemingly immortal, like Superman. And Iron Man does that as well. Like Iron Man, again, Tony Stark he's just a man. But what I love about him is he's a man who's very resourceful. I mean, people could say how he's got resources, but it's not his resources that made Iron Man, it's his resourcefulness. And you really see that at the beginning of the film in the cave scene. You know, there's a really good scene, and spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen Iron Man, if you're one of the 2 people on planet Earth who hasn't seen Iron Man by now, I'm going to spoil the movie. I'm going to talk about the movie, what I loved about the movie. It's going to be all spoilers, so spoiler alert. But in the cave scene, there's a scene after he comes out of the cave and he's developed the Iron Man suit. The CEO guy, he's getting the scientists and best engineers to recreate the arc reactor that Stark managed to create in the cave. And he's like, they can't do it. They're saying it's impossible. And he's like, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a bunch of scraps. And you're like, and the guy's like, but I'm not Tony Stark, you know? So he's got all these great scientists, great engineers, they got all the resources in a nice lab in Stark Industries, and they can't build the arc reactor, which is right in front of them, the big arc reactor that was initially created as a prototype. They can't create that, but Tony Stark was able to do it in a cave with a bunch of scraps with one assistant. That's what his power is. It's not his wealth, you know, per se, although wealth does give him resources. It's more his resourcefulness. And that's the reason he has wealth, because he's able to create with his mind these amazing weapons and technology. The movie is a lot better than I thought. It really stands the test of time. I mean, you look back at it now and it's like 10 years old. And just looking at like some of the flip phones in there and the old technology, I forgot how much technology itself in the real world has advanced. And even how young Robert Downey Jr. and director Jon Favreau, who's in the movie, is happy, how young he looks, and some of the other characters. But it was just such a great movie. It stands the test of time. Like watching it, I watched it yesterday. I just felt like this could come out today and still be an amazing movie. And Downey was born to play this role. I saw some interviews where he was saying, this is me, like this is my life, because he was going through some really tough times in his life. People forget this. No one knew who Iron Man was. Marvel were actually going through tough times themselves. They were on the verge of bankruptcy, which is why they had to sell some of their assets, their characters like Spider-Man to Sony, and X-Men and Fantastic Four and all those popular Marvel characters. They sold them to 21st Century Fox, for example. That there's a reason why those characters are not owned by Disney and Marvel now, because they had to sell. At that time, Marvel had to sell those characters. There's a story actually of one of the CEO of Sony or someone, chairman of Sony. They offered all of Marvel's entire roster for $25 million, and he was like, who needs those other characters? The only character that matters is Spider-Man. I bet he's kicking himself now. But again, nobody knew who Iron Man was. He wasn't a popular character. I didn't know nothing about Iron Man. Heard of Iron Man, but I didn't know really or care to know about Iron Man. It's the same with a lot of these Marvel characters that are now coming out. Thor, Captain America, the Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. At that point, I hadn't heard of Black Panther. I only heard of him a few years later. And then I was impressed and I was like, wow, I can't wait to see this character come to the screen. And now he's on the screen and everyone knows that character now. But none of these characters were well-known characters. And people seem to forget that because Iron Man's been so successful. And Downey Jr. is just like, he literally is playing himself. Like, you look at him in interviews and he's got the same kind of sense of humor, same mannerisms. It's like, this is Tony Stark, so it was kind of a role of a lifetime for him. But for the movie itself, I love this. It shows the classical hero's journey. I love it. It's just showing a man who obviously he's going one way, and then he has a tragic situation happen to him, where he's captured, and he has to fight his way out, find a solution of escaping that problem. He's got no one there to help him, none of his friends, none of his allies, nothing. Rhody, his best friend, he's not there. They got separated in the ambush. He had to rescue himself, and I really admired that about the character, and also the man that's helping him as well. People overlook that guy. And if you look at Iron Man, if you watch Iron Man 3, again, spoilers for Iron Man 3 if you've not seen it, but he mentions in the cave that they had met before at this conference where he was, and it was very brief. And he's like, I don't remember you. And he goes, yeah, I wouldn't have remembered either if I was drunk and I was about to give a talk on nuclear physics or something like that. If you watch Iron Man 3, that scene comes up. It's so good the way Marvel has this long form storytelling, because you see that guy turn up in Iron Man 3 in the flashback scene when they go back to 1998 to that very conference, and you see that little moment and you think, oh wow, that little moment, you don't, that's why it's like, always respect people, because you never know what that person, how important that person's going to be to your life. That guy is probably one of the most important characters in Tony Stark's life. He's the one who helped him build the first Iron Man Mark 1, and he's also the man who saved his life by fixing him with the battery pack, which ended up being the arc reactor that Stark created that would save his life so the shrapnel wouldn't get to his heart. I really admire that kind of long form storytelling and those little characters that are very important to this main character that we're following. Speaking of which, Rhody, played by Terrence Howard, I love the chemistry between those two. I thought that it was so good, and it was such a shame that Terrence Howard had, or whatever conflicts he had with Marvel, and he couldn't continue the role. And I've said this before, Don Cheadle's a great actor, but I just feel like, and I liked him in Iron Man 2, I liked his role in Iron Man 2, but it feels like he's a bit of a background character. It's like people are forgetting that he's Tony Stark's best friend, not Captain America. They've never been friends. People going on about their friendship, they're not friends. They've never been friends. They've always been arguing with each other. They've always been opposite kind of ideologies. Even Spider-Man now, like, is becoming, obviously he's the apprentice, but it's almost like Tony Stark is close to Spider-Man. Tony Stark is close to Steve Rogers, which is not really. And even Bruce Banner, which I understand, but his best friend is Rhodey. And I think if Terrence Howard had stayed on, I think War Machine Rhodey would have been a bigger character than he currently is. That's no fault of Don Cheadle again. I really like Don Cheadle, he's a great actor. But I just feel like the chemistry between Terrence Howard and Robert Downey Jr. was just better. That Rhodey and Tony relationship was a lot stronger in Iron Man 1. I thought he was great in the movie. He had a very strong presence, very believable. I really enjoyed their chemistry, their back and forth. And speaking of which, obviously Pepper Potts and Tony Stark's relationship was really good in this movie as well, because they didn't have the romantic connection yet. So he's her boss, but yet he's still flirting with her. They've still got that chemistry, that will they, won't they, kind of get together kind of thing. Her concerns for him all the time, she's always there for him. Like, she's the one who, again, she saved his life by keeping that old arc reactor, because she put it in the box. She was like, oh, don't you want to keep it? He's like, throw it away. One of the things I'm not is sentimental. But it ended up, that sentimentality ended up saving his life when the CEO guy, I keep forgetting his name, when he stole Stark's arc reactor to power his Iron Man machine. So it kind of came full circle that her little sentimentality for his creations helped him out in the end. Just as a movie, I just loved it. Okay, so one of the things I really liked about Tony Stark from this movie was he's quite rebellious. And lately I haven't been enjoying the Stark character as much as I did in the early Marvel days. And I think he's quite similar to Cap in a lot of ways. People call Captain America a Boy Scout. He's not really a Boy Scout. He's a bit of a rebel. When you look at the first Captain America movie, he's someone who's driven and determined despite everybody telling him he shouldn't be going to the army. His best friend Bucky's saying no. The army is saying no. He's very unconventional. He, when he goes on that rescue mission to rescue Bucky and the other commandos, he's on a rebellious mission. The general was like, they're behind enemy lines. We're not going to rescue them. We're going to try and win the war like we're supposed to. Him, Howard Stark, and Peggy Carter, they steal a plane and end up flying over enemy territory, and he ends up rescuing them all. So he's quite a rebellious character, and it obviously evolves even more with the movies. I think what people look at when they see Captain America as Boy Scout is just because he's such a good man. He's so selfless. But he's selfless on his terms. He's not selfless on the terms of following orders. I mean, he does believe in following orders, but not necessarily, because his actions don't actually show that. And Tony Stark's exactly the same. You see it especially in Iron Man 2 when they're trying to get the suit. The government are trying to get the suit, and he's like, no, I'm not giving you the suit. Me and the suit were one. And that's where the conflict with him and Rhody comes in play, because Rhodey's obviously a military man. He's very much Boy Scout by the rules, and that's where they have a conflict. And then he becomes more and more aligned with Rhodey's ideology of control and following orders from higher authorities. But I felt like Stark was more of a rebel in Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and that's what I liked about him. He created his own suit, he lived by his own rules, should I say. Yeah, that's one of the things that I really admired about him. I mean, yeah, he's a funny character, he's sarcastic, he's got good wit and all that stuff. I know that's what a lot of people do like about him, surface level, but as a character, what I liked was the fact that he was able to create his own path, his own power in the Iron Man suit. He went to the Middle East, and he after creating the Iron Man suit and rescued those people, the same people who were being oppressed, the oppression he had seen from when he was captured. So he went there when he saw that they were still using his weapons, which he stopped. He wanted those weapons no longer to be manufactured because they're causing problems all over the world. So he went there and destroyed those weapons. He went there and rescued those people, despite the authorities not doing that, despite not having the authority to do that or the authorization to do that. And yeah, there's some grey areas of, should he have done that, shouldn't he have done that? For me, I think I'm always drawn to those characters who are leaders and who lead by example and who go do things despite everyone else saying no, it can't be done, it shouldn't be done. But they believe in what they believe in, and they're gonna do it regardless, And that's one of the things I really liked about Iron Man. Most of the movie, when you watch it, most of it is him building the Iron Man suit. It's him, creating this weapon, this suit of armor, and it's just fascinating to watch him in his lab creating. It's like Elon Musk they call the real life Iron Man. And I've finished reading his book, the book by Ashley Vance on Elon Musk. Absolutely loved that book and really inspired me actually. And I can see where the comparisons are, because Elon Musk is developing technology in a way that's very counterintuitive to the way the masses and the industry and the standard have been. And that's exactly what Tony Stark does as well. Even though he doesn't have the same kind of personality outwardly, because Elon Musk is very introverted. Stark's very extroverted in the way his mannerisms are and his wit and the way he talks, his persona, and Elon Musk is kind of shy. It's the comparison in the way that they go about things in terms of the way they build their businesses. The way Elon Musk is focused on putting human beings on Mars with SpaceX, the way he's focused on alternative energy in terms of solar power with Solar City, the company Solar City, which his cousin runs, but obviously he's the chairman of. The way that he's very much about electric cars and eliminating diesel and gasoline cars from our roads to help the environment, and by creating these really sexy, really state-of-the-art electric cars, which I'm looking at like the Tesla Model S, and I'm like, that for me is an amazing car. It's actually, I'm actually changed my mind about getting an Aston Martin. I'd actually prefer to get a Tesla. I still probably get an Aston Martin, but I really like the Tesla vehicle. I think it's just like the next level. Everyone's going to be driving electric cars soon. And that's the thing with Stark. He's a creative. He's someone who goes against the grain, goes against the model, you know? And that's what I like about him. He's just an amazing inventor and someone who creates his own reality. Iron Man, I loved Iron Man. It was a great movie. It's well worth watching again if you haven't seen it for a while. 5 out of 5. One of Marvel's top movies, one of the best comic book movies of all time, one of the most iconic characters now in film history, I would say. He has actually become one of the top superhero characters, because, you know, we talk about Batman, Superman, maybe Wonder Woman, and we talk about Spider-Man, you know, those kind of characters. Iron Man's now in that upper echelon of characters, and that's only been in the last 10 years because of what Robert Downey Jr. has done with the character, and what Marvel have done. The stories that they've told with the character has been really groundbreaking. It really starts with this film. The Marvel Cinematic Universe starts with this movie. If you haven't watched Iron Man, you need to watch Iron Man. You know, go and check that out first if you're starting to get into Marvel movies. It's the first movie of this universe, and you know, it's one of the best, so definitely check it out. Anyway, if you like this video, hit that like button, share, subscribe, and if you've seen Iron Man, comment down below, let me know what your favorite parts of the movie were. Let's have a discussion about it, and I'll see you on this channel for some more reviews, movie reviews, and a lot. Peace.